All right, good afternoon. My name is Alan Nochumson of Nochumson P.C, and I'm here with Francis Mangubat, of the co-founder of Advanced Philly, one of the largest real estate residential teams in the Philadelphia region. Welcome, Francis.
Alan, thanks for having me on this call, and yeah, excited to be on here.
Yeah, so I work with Francis and his partner, Laura Resnick, a lot. We have many clients in common, including B2 Properties, which is one of the largest single-family home builders in the Philadelphia region. And, we work a lot on different projects in the Philadelphia region. I thought Francis would be a good resource to kind of find out what's going on in the Philadelphia real estate market right now. So before we begin, Francis, why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your team?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, Alan, a little bit about myself. I got started in the business in 2016, immediately after graduating University of Delaware. I had the opportunity to learn from Antonio Attican, who is, I'd say he's one of the biggest real estate names in Philadelphia. He started Keller Williams, and previously he was with Prudential and Berkshire Hathaway, had the #4 Prudential Fox and Roach team in the country, had the honor of learning the business from him. In 2018, Lawrence Resnick and myself started the company Advanced Philly. And then, 19 was our second year in business. And we helped our clients purchase and sell about 85 million worth of Philadelphia real estate. So it's been an incredible journey. And here we are at the first downturn. And we'll see what else is to come.
Yeah. One of the things that I think differentiates your team from any teams I deal with in the Philadelphia region, I represent a lot of real estate developers who are doing, investment properties, in terms of either flipping them in terms of single family homes, planned communities, condos, or just buying an apartment building. And, your team works with a lot of my clients. And I find that your team's very aggressive and knowledgeable about the real estate market from an investor point of view, but also a consumer point of view. So I thought, that you would have information to know what's going on right now. So what are your thoughts on the Philadelphia real estate market?
Yeah, really interesting. That's a really interesting question, Alan. I'd say there's some interesting perspectives, both macroeconomically from the country and locally here in Philadelphia. So just to preface that question, about 2 weeks ago, I was on a phone call with Gary Keller, who I had no idea that he was actually worth $200 million according to Google. But Gary had 125 of his top agents in the country, all from the range of $1.5 million to $2 million in GCI. And it was a really high level 6-hour mastermind. So what Gary's saying is that everywhere in the country, no one really knows what's going to happen with Corona, how long it's going to take. So when people are putting statements out there saying, hey, we would hope to be open on June 15th, or we hope to say July 1st, that could be an optimistic idea or an optimistic statement. But at the end of the day, no one really knows what's going to happen, because this is the first time ever that this has happened before. And what I'd say with Philadelphia, I just I just sold a property on 17th and Pine. The lender was a guaranteed rate, which I'd say is one of the largest residential mortgage lenders here in Philadelphia. So my buddy Jeff Angelucci, who's one of the managers there, he said that in April of 2019, compared to April 2020, we did this year, April 2020, 80% of the number of rate locks that we did in 2019 for Philadelphia. And I'd say that's a good number, because right now, Philadelphia realtors aren't even able to conduct in-person showings, which shows that there's a lot of demand for the market. The supply, there hasn't really been an abundance of supply yet at this point in time on as of May 13th, because the developers have held off on deploying their inventory onto the market. And then second thing, a lot of the homeowners, they're fine just living in their home. So I'd say inventory has been about the same. So it'll be really interesting to see how things unravel in the next 3, 6, 9, and 12 months.
Yeah. So a glass half full, it sounds like, having 80% of rate locks, I mean, it's a good thing because, a lot of people are in a holding pattern right now. You can look at it, the glass half empty, and you can say it's a 20% reduction from last year, but having no ability to actually show properties and you're getting 80% of the volume you got last year is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely look at that as a good thing. And I mean, from both of our experience working with a mutual client, I mean, March, I think, had the lowest amount of activity in the real estate market. And there was a shell on 20th in the 2000 block of Naudine listed for 475,000. My client our client was one of 7 offers. And I would guess that it went for over $125,000 over the ask price. And I think that's a, crazy number pandemic wise. I mean, we just sold a 2-story shell on 26 in Naudine this week for 525,000. So there's still a lot of demand here for Philadelphia real estate. And I mean, we're the 5th, 6th largest city in the country, and we're still so far below the value in the market of New York City, DC, and Boston. So, I'm optimistic, and I like investing in Philadelphia real estate.
Gotcha. What about Center City, Philadelphia? How's the single family development market going?
Yeah, I mean, the single family market is solid. I mean, I actually just sold a place on 120 Queen Street. It was on the market for a day. It was listed for 1.1 million, and then we got a really, really good offer. It's a one of a kind property, so yeah, we sold that in a day. And yeah, it's interesting to see what realtors are doing to come up with unique solutions to get things done for their clients. And I think when you look at the prime Center City market, that's north of Christian Street to, let's say, where Logan Square is, Queen Village, Bella Vista, Rittenhouse, Fittler Square. It's there's very little supply of really high-end product that is very well done. I'll give you an example. I think that Philadelphia, the last 25 years, has been a very blue-collar neighborhood where people are mostly buying properties and are taking a look at a price per square foot. Whereas now I feel like we've had so many people move in from like LA, Seattle, New York, Boston, DC, and people are really, paying the premium to have your Sub-Zero appliances. People are paying the premium to have, if you look behind you have your quartz you have your Calcutta quartz rolled all the way up to the backsplash. You have people that are going to pay the premium for 9-foot door frames and solid core doors and Control 4, home automated system. So I think that there's very little supply of that in the market to go hand in hand with the fear of losing your 10-year tax abatement. So I'd say that market is still going strong.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere, I think it may even been on Philly.com, about how the supply is pretty low, like from of properties being listed for sale, but the ones that are being listed for sale, the average time that they're being marketed is less than 2 weeks until they go under contract. So there is actually a demand. It's just I think people are concerned about how to be able to properly market and get top dollar. How are you doing that? How are you working for your clients to advertise their properties and get properties under contract?
So Alan, that question of just getting it done for clients, I'd say that goes hand in hand with the way that you had introduced me and Advanced Philly, because in the Philadelphia space, we have a reputation for working with a lot of developers, and other realtors know us for having inventory that's not yet on the market, and buyers know that if they're looking at a property, that I can come up with almost like an innovative solution to get them a walk-in closet, or get the developer to change the stain on the floors. Or I'll give you an example. One of my clients in Rittenhouse, I just sold this place on 17th and Pine, and the inspector cited that the roof, that he completely had to replace the roof. Well, I had a client back in Old Kensington where the buyer's inspector about 6 months ago said it was going to be $15,000 to replace that roof. Well, I was able to get my client developer pricing on the roof. It was $7,000 to completely demo a deck that was rotting and to completely replace the roof with a 12-year warranty. So I'd say when it comes to adding value to clients at Advanced Philly, that is always something that we look to do. We look to add value to clients. And I'd say good news travels quickly, in where if you really do an incredible job for clients and you go above and beyond what the typical scope of work is, people just, want to refer you. And I'd say that goes for co-op agents. They're trying to find opportunities for their clients. So, they reach out to us. We have a ton of listings that are on the market who maybe, that's the perfect listing, but the buyer's not ready to go buy 4 to 6 months from now. We're staying in front of those agents and just coming up with unique solutions to essentially get the job done at the end of the day.
No, I agree. And with so much information online through social media and otherwise, there's a lot of noise out there to differentiate yourself. I think this was you. It made me chuckle. I think it was a couple years ago. You had a property in Brewery Town, and one of the ways you advertised it is that you said there was a hot tub up there, right? And
Yeah.
like you advertised and say, hey, we're having an open house. Check us out in the hot tub. And like it, that to me was like really interesting advertising, because it put me like, you're like flipping through like Facebook. Okay, boring, boring, boring. And then you're like, whoa, what's this? And it's just like, right. I thought that was very unique. It made me chuckle at the very least. I
Yeah, it's
wasn't
funny
interested
how
in buying.
that's funny because a lot of top realtors in the city and top real estate, not just realtors, but also like lawyers and lenders, had the same feedback. So, that's just what we do.
Yeah.
And that house sold in 30 days and we got our client, Vince, who's also a great client of yours, an incredible number.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So, because we work in a lot of, the areas, like, we've done a lot of zoning matters for your clients and, for your partners and, in Brewery Town and things like that. Besides Brewery Town, what are the other up and coming areas in the Philadelphia region that, people should start focusing on?
So I actually get that question a lot. People are always like, oh, what's the next hottest neighborhood, or what neighborhood
Yeah.
should I buy? And my piece of advice is like always like, rather than, buying a certain neighborhood, or rather than just buying like a certain index fund, like in real estate, you can go find a deal. You can always find a deal that's a way better deal in percentage to the market. You can get a deal that's like a way better discount compared to the market, and that'll actually be a better deal than just buying in a certain neighborhood. I'll give you an example. So my own I just bought a 2-story shell in Grad Hospital. I
Mm-hmm.
bought it in Grad Hospital is like a super established Philadelphia neighborhood. So I'm gutting the shell. I'm adding a 3rd story on top. I figure I'll be all in for 600, 625. The thing appraises for 860. I think it'll even be worth more by the time that I'm done with it, because I'm putting a bunch of like unique finishes that you don't really see on the market. And I think that's going to add value. But anyways, like you're not really finding a lot of deals that are that good in Grad Hospital, or like it just, I got it at a deeper discount compared to the market. So rather than like buying, let's say Port Richmond or buying Kensington, well, you're buying in these hot neighborhoods and you're kind of just expecting these neighborhoods to appreciate, but you can go to a neighborhood like Rittenhouse or Queen Village or Grad Hospital, and if you just keep your eye on the market and you focus on finding creative ways to go and find deals, then you can actually get a discount compared to where the market is, and that will be a better deal than buying a hot neighborhood and just banking on the appreciation.
I agree. I mean, I have a lot of clients like, who do the same thing. I mean, focus on estates, right? People who recently died and the heirs are looking to sell the property or dilapidated property where someone can't take care of it anymore and they're looking to just get out under it. And it's all about hustle, right? It's like literally sweat equity. Focusing on getting as much information that's unique than other people who are trying to get that same information. So,
Right. I mean, I'll give you an example. I have a client where, really, really sophisticated developers. We were able to find a parcel in Queen Village that had the legal description on the property was wrong, and it had an environmental issue. But anyways, that we ended up reducing the purchase price by like almost 50%. And so we're getting ground for like 200 grand. And we can probably sell the homes at like $1.5 million.
that's
So
awesome.
just, being more, it's doing more due diligence and taking a harder look and just being more active in the market.
Yeah. Well, and that's the difference between a real estate agent that represents investors versus consumers, right? The ones that represent consumers, they're looking at the bottom line, doing comparables. How much is a finished product? And, what can my client get from that, right? Well, your group is more about, okay, I have people who are, this is their business to purchase real estate and to then sell it and make money, right? So,
Right.
you also represent consumers. So in this market, like, what are you doing for your clients who are looking to either sell or purchase? Like, who are just consumers who own a house? Like, what are you recommending from the seller's point of view and then the buyer's point of view?
Yeah. So from a buyer's point of view, I'll give you an example. I have a client who she's a broker for one of those big commercial shops, and a lot of commercial brokers are like, oh yeah, I can just use my license and I can get the commission off. But anyways, I find out finding a parcel and it's in Fairmount. It's a street to street parcel, so you can get parking. There's a really good odds of getting parking on a street to street lot. So this property was on the market for like 3 months. It had multiple offers on it. And after 3 months of being on the market, like sometime in the winter, and what I said is, hey, I wouldn't worry about paying $5,000 over the next guy, because when you get parking on this block, it's going to add $75,000 worth of value, even though the listing doesn't market having parking and the seller's agent doesn't know that you can go and get parking on it. So that's just, one different way to add value. And then, I mean, the second thing even like a residential seller, I'll give you an example. I sold a place on like 20th and Cater a few years ago, and the seller was like, oh, the seller was actually like a commercial real estate attorney. And he's like, I'm kind of debating selling my house, whatever. I'm like, oh, I actually have a client, who's interested, but then, if I'm going to show it, then we have to go sign up the listing paperwork. And then, one of my clients actually made an offer, bought it cash. He's like, whoa, I'm actually surprised that you actually had a buyer on it, because other people are just going to say they have a buyer to go and get the listing. But this is
Yeah.
like he at 23 years old who actually had a client to go buy the house. And it was a good deal for the buyer too, because, 2-car parking in Grad Hospital, pretty tough to come by.
That's right.
At the end of the day, it's just creating opportunities for people.
Gotcha. So, how are you dealing with working remotely? Like, are you in Philadelphia all the time, and how are you doing deals?
Yeah, so that's really interesting question. So my lifestyle prior to COVID was definitely like 80 to 100 hours a week of just work, being out and about. I have lunch and dinner out every single day with someone else. So definitely see me in the Philadelphia restaurant scene. I'm an avid consumer of.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big shift. That had a big impact. The shutdown had a big impact on me personally. So for the first 2 weeks, I mean, I almost had like slight depression and a lot of anxiety. So I'm like, man, I just got to get out of here. So I'm fortunate that I have lots of friends and family in California and LA. So ended up going out there, spent 5 weeks there, was like super productive working remotely. Actually sold 8 properties virtually while I was out there. So yeah, it's been, I'd say it's been a good quarantine, and have adapted to it well.
Yeah, well, I think that this quarantine has really focused people on the fact that it's great to be with someone physically, right? But we can do most tasks, work-related tasks, remotely. We can meet like via Zoom, right? You can do deals like, DocuSign, whatever the sign is, right? And it sounds like you've done well.
Yeah, thank you.
So, well, thank you so much for your time. Now, if someone wanted to like actually reach out to you, learn a little bit more about you and or talk if they have a property to sell or purchase, how would they reach you?
Yeah, I'd say email is definitely the best way. It's Francis, Francis, at advancedphilly.com. So that's ADVANCE, Philly.com. And then I'd say that you can definitely keep in contact with me on Instagram. I'm very active on that social media. And I'm doing a weekly YouTube video with just adding value to the market, putting things that I've learned, just like fun stuff, YouTube channel. So
Okay, what's your YouTube channel handle?
if you just, I don't know that if you just Google my name, it'll pop up. I think I had started it 2 weeks ago. I have 2 videos and then, yeah, 125 subscribers and, trying to get that going.
Awesome, awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of the day. It's beautiful weather out. Take
Alan, thanks for
control,
being
live
on the call.
safely. What?
Thanks for having me on the call. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, stay safe and healthy.
Yep. Take care, man.
All right.